the water's fine, homie, jump into the deep end. Sow it, you will reap it. We talking how to start it, how to grow it, how to keep it. Take a deep breath. You are now rocking with Founder Secrets.
Joel, welcome to Founder Secrets.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
So this is going to be fun. You know, we haven't had many people on the pod who go from corporate life. We've had a lot of people who go from corporate life to starting a business, but I think today's going to be a lot of fun because it's corporate life to buying a business.
Yes.
So before we jump into that, we are going to start with our icebreaker.
So it's the best live event you've been at recently. And I went to this thing, the Children's Museum of Manhattan puts up this thing called Sunday Fun Day. And it's incredible. You walk in and they have, it's like a children's paradise, but also an adult's paradise. For example, they have like a basketball hoop. And everyth's free. You know what I love about events is that they don't like nickel and dime you once you're inside. Like, let's say they sell popcorn, right? Like, are you going to charge me another $5-10 for the popcorn? Or it's all part of the ticket, which is not cheap. But once you're in, like everything, like the food, the basketball, the things, they're all included. Nice. And it's just good because I ate a lot of popcorn and because I played a lot of basketball and ate popcorn. And it was just like the most fun party for like kids and adults you could ever imagine.
Where is it?
Well, so that's the thing. They have a museum, but they didn't do it there, which I was really surprised. And I look on the map and it's in this empty space on the Google Maps. Like I was just going to like an empty space, but they just turned this huge empty space and basically like for that one day turned it into this magical place and then tear it all down.
Oh, it's just one day. Cool. So where was it? In the city?
Space in 416th Street, something like that.
Wow, that's a great idea. All inclusive. All right, so super fun event is last weekend. I went to Kentucky and we got really good seats for the University of Kentucky with my brother and with my dad. So it was cool, like family time. Neither one of them had ever been to Rupp Arena, world famous, where the University of Kentucky plays basketball. It's world famous to very, very small subset of people. But we went, played the number one team in the country, Auburn. We got absolutely annihilated. So that part was not that fun. But we had really good seats. You could actually see us. My dad was very proud because he recorded the game and then he got to see us. Like we were right behind basketball, which just as a pro tip to anybody who's buying seats at a basketball game, you can like if you want to spend a little bit more money, either you could be in suites, which is the ideal way to do it. But Rupp Arena doesn't have suites. It's an old arena. Or you could be closer to the ground, right? Well, it's a very economically, they figured this out. Like the higher price seats are better for a reason. And so there are good looking seats that are on the ends. Like you'd be very, very close to the court, but you're at the end of the court. Like you're behind the goal, right? Which is where we were. So we're very, very close, but you're behind the goal. Downside of that is that now you have to look at everything through the goal. So you're looking, so it's kind of like you almost get too close. And so if we were to do it again, which I'd love to do it again, I would get on the sides. Like you really want to be on the sides because that's where the magic is. But we had an amazing time. We ate a lot of ice cream and a lot of popcorn. So that seems to be the trend, popcorn at live events. What about you, Joel?
Yeah, I'll keep the trend going. So 2 weeks ago, my family and I went to Disneyland, the one in Florida. So we did Disneyland. So I have 2 young children, a 3-year-old and a 6-year-old. My wife and I went and bought some popcorn, ate some popcorn. Unfortunately, it was not as free as the Children's Museum. They do nickel and dime you everywhere you go. But it was a blast, had good weather. It was a mini reunion with some old Marine Corps friends who all are older now and have children just like me. So we had a good time and just enjoyed escaping Michigan in February.
Yeah. I love it. That's great. So let's jump into it. So Joel, you grew up in Michigan, then your military took you to Southern California. That's where you met my brother, actually, and then you kind of joined the corporate world, and then decided that you wanted to buy a business. Is that right?
Yeah, that's a fair summary. Yeah, so I think you hit it on the head. I think we can wrap this up.
All right, we're done.
Pod, everybody.
But yeah, no, I enlisted in the Marine Corps right out of high school. I'm 18 years old. Did 5 years all around the country, all around the world, primarily out of Southern California and San Diego. Upon separating from the military, I wanted to check the boxes of success, which is go get a college degree, finance degree, check. I started working in corporate America. I was like, okay, well, how do I move up faster? So I pursued an MBA. That's where I met your brother. I finished the MBA, moved back to Michigan for work in the automotive industry. And corporate America just didn't scratch that itch for me. And so just through self-education and enriching, my own knowledge, I decided to pursue buying a business. It wasn't something that was, I I know we can dissect this, but it wasn't something that was done right away. Definitely took years of kind of getting the idea and having that mature. But fast forward, here we are, 2025. I purchased the business on January 10th. So almost 2 months of owning a seasonal business. So 2 months of spending money. And I'm looking forward to being able to make some money very soon, make some revenue.
Wait, so when you say it took long, like when's the moment you decided I'm going to start?
I would say in 2019, I read the Harvard Business Review book. I think it was called Entrepreneurship Through Acquisition or something along those lines. Essentially, it's 2 Harvard professors who teach the class Entrepreneurship Through Acquisition. I read it in 2019. I started just kind of educating myself in the space. COVID hit, and so life took a pause. And then kind of coming out of the going, back to the grind, if you will, post-COVID, picked up another book, Buy Then Build by Walker Dreibel, I believe his name is, and just kind of put my feet to the fire and decided that I was going to do this and did whatever it took. And so, yeah.
And so then what did you do? Like what?
So for me, for those who have not read the books, I believe both of them suggest you quit your job. Obviously you save funds, you have a plan, but you quit your job and you do a full-time search. What I did is I had a healthy W-2 and I didn't want to just quit my job. So I, supplemented, I outsourced a lot of work. So I bought a brokerage firm that did a outreach campaign for myself. And so they would reach out to businesses, bring them to me. I would give them a yes or no. Do I want to pursue? And
what do you mean you bought a brokerage firm?
I should say I hired a brokerage firm. So I hired a brokerage firm that went out and, that'd be nice.
About 2 companies.
I hired a brokerage firm that went out on my behalf and basically knocked on doors, cold called businesses, and tried to see if there were any off-market deals that I could jump into.
So first of all, how many months of runway of personal cash do these books suggest that you need before?
That's a good question. I couldn't cite it because I didn't take that advice. So yeah.
And where did you find this brokerage firm?
So they're based out of Western Michigan. I had a family friend that saw them at a conference once. I looked up their website, had a couple calls. I tried other brokers. This was, in my opinion, the most reputable and professional company, and I felt very comfortable with moving forward for them.
Did they charge you a retainer? How did the pricing work, and what were the criteria?
So there's different tiers of pricing. I won't give the specifics, but if people go down the path, they can definitely see it. But there's different tiers, and each tier obviously will come with more bells and whistles of what they offer.
Maybe give range of
sure. So I'll just say that the top tier that I had was $5,000 a month. So but with that tier comes some benefits. You can apply some of those funds towards your success fee. So success fee is going to be on I think they call it a sliding scale based upon the acquisition price. So in a way, I viewed it as, sure, I was paying $5,000 a month, but at the end, I was going to be able to apply some of that towards the purchase price. But also, if you're in the corporate world, you got to take a gamble one way. Either it's you're quitting your job or you're paying someone else to do this for you.
So if you buy a business for $1 million, what percent goes to this broker or a broker? Not this.
That's a good question. I don't remember the exact percentages. It's a contract I signed over a year ago, but
they take some percentage.
They take some
50%, 20%.
I honestly can't even remember what it is. I'd have to go look at the contract.
I think the average is 5 to 8%.
Yeah, it's not going to be something that keeps you from being able to cross that hurdle into the acquisition. But yeah, they definitely do make their money there.
What were you looking for? What was the criteria? What you wanted?
I wanted a blue collar services business. I wanted something that artificial intelligence couldn't replace. I didn't want to go out and have myself relieved by a computer. And so I was looking for blue collar services business. I wanted something niche. I wanted something that was repeatable. And kind of pivoting back to the Harvard Business Review book, the quote that they had that I love is, you want an enduringly profitable business. You want something that is going to make money. It's not sexy. It has to be done. People don't have a choice. So that's what, led me to buying a pothole business, is people need to drive on safe roads. They don't have a choice about it. And it's a value add to the community, and somebody has to do it.
And you wanted a local business, something in Michigan.
I did. Yeah. I've lived all over the country. I've enjoyed every place I've lived, but I wanted to stay in Michigan.
And so tell us more, how did the negotiation go? Did they name a price? How did the process work once you identified them?
Yeah, so I'll keep this part short. So I had the brokerage firm doing cold calls, going out to companies and basically saying, hey, would you sell? We found a lot of people who would say yes for the right price. So a lot of people who thought they were overvalued. We did get under LOI with a landscaping business. the landscaping business fell through. The sellers drug their feet a bit. It felt like we were wasting time. And so once the deal fell through, my wife and I basically said, hey, we gotta make something happen the next 2 months. So what we did is I went to Biz Buy Sell, and I found a listing that actually looked pretty legitimate, pretty credible. And I just sent it to my brokers and said, hey, let's pursue this. So that business already had a purchase price out there. It did come with real estate. So, part of that is, real estate's going to be associated with, fair market valuation. And then from there, the valuation of the business itself is just a multiple of, the seller's discretionary earnings. So EBITDA plus whatever they're paying themselves. So that's where, having the brokerage firm, while I have a finance background, it was nice to have that comfortable feeling that somebody else was looking at and reviewing this. And then ultimately, for those who do not know, I don't know if you guys are educated in the SBA loan side of the house, but the SBA will do a valuation of the business and kind of say, hey, does this valuation make sense? Does what you're paying make sense relative to what the financials say? So there's multiple areas that I had to kind of give me comfort that we were in the right price. But yeah, so it ultimately started out with they were already listed on Biz Buy Sell.
And you put in an offer. For those who don't know, like an SBA is a Small Business Administration, but they back some loans. Basically, the federal government stands behind the loan in case one defaults, and so that makes it less risky for a bank. The downside for a bank is that it's a lot more paperwork. It's just a lot more work for the bank, and so not all banks do it. But it is desirable because usually the interest rates are, even though right now they're kind of tough, but traditionally the interest rates are good. So you use the SBA loan to acquire the business. And then what happened? Like you they have employees, they have inventory. The guy ran it, I assume.
That's that last part again.
The guy, like the owner, ran the business, I assume.
Yes, So it's a husband and wife couple. So on January 10th. Well, I'll say a couple things. So we negotiated the purchase price. Full transparency, it was about $1.9 million. So we had to come to the table with 10% down, plus the friction of environmental, which I learned a ton about environmental, getting due care plans and all those in place to reduce liability of landowners. But also you have those costs.
Wait. What do you mean care plans? Like
I don't know what any of that means.
Oh, fantastic. Okay, so it's, in my opinion, it's a money-making scheme that creates zero value. But what it does is, I'm pretty sure this is nationwide, but definitely in the state of Michigan, when you're buying a business, and this also came with the real estate, but even if you didn't buy the real estate, they require generally a phase 1 environmental survey. And that is just, in my layman words, it's a book report saying, what has this property been used for the past 100 years? Would this require additional testing to say if there's any environmental contamination in the soil, and how do you avoid it from exacerbating if it were to contaminate water or food soil? But this is strictly my opinion. There'll be a lot of people who disagree with this, but in my opinion, the phase 1 is a check in the box that then says, yes, we need to do a phase 2, give us another $8,000. So once you do the phase 1, led to the phase 2, which does actual sampling of the soil, sampling of the air. In Michigan, it's a very industrial state. You're always going to find something. So that led to, yes, there is some contamination deep in the soil, but it is cemented over. Unless you're going to go dig up the cement and then dig up the soil, you're fine. But to legally reduce your liability in Michigan, it's called EGLE, but the environmental agencies, you have to pay an additional $4,000 to $8,000 to tell them, I will not dig up the soil. If the utility companies come, I will give them this piece of paperwork. So ultimately, you pay, in my case, I paid about $20,000, and I have a couple hundred pages of documentation. Nothing has changed the soil, but we now have paperwork that is filed with the state, and that's
where. Wait, what soil are we talking about? Because you fill potholes all over the state.
This is the soil under my business, like physically.
You bought property.
Where you store the cement or the chemicals.
This is just literally think where your house is built. Like there's soil underneath it, and there's probably some level of contamination.
Right, but you also store, I don't know, what is like some substances there too, right? For like
so kind of circling back to your question, purchase the business, the sellers are there, but there's only 2 materials that go into filling a pothole. It's stone aggregate and emulsion. So both of those are above ground and in containers. They're not contaminating the soil. They're not contaminating.
Oh, they're not like, when you walk past these things that they just have like a giant mountain of like,
I've
sand or something. Salt. Yeah. It's not like that.
Oh no, there will be a ton of stone. I'm getting a bunch on Friday if you guys want to fly out.
Wait, but you're saying it's not on the ground, it's in containers?
The emulsion the stone is on the ground, but it's just stone. It's washed stone. It's not going to contaminate anything.
So 20 grand for an environmental review, but
Yeah.
it wasn't about what it sounds like the review was about the historical.
Correct. It's all about what has already happened, and then it tells me what not to do. And so for me, don't dig up the cement, don't dig up the soil. So
20 grand. Wow. I want to be in that business. Okay. So
Yeah.
you buy some property, you buy some trucks, you buy all this. I assume you're buying some contracts or
So there are contracts with the business legally. No one is required. So I had my lawyers review every contract legally, whether I did an asset sale or a stock sale. That's another topic there. But legally, the customers have the right to terminate the contract. And for a city, they could rebid it. I also have some large national chains that we service. They have the right to terminate it. But the contracts were with the prior business and they had strong relationships. And so far, everyone has stayed on. We've started to talk to our customers and everyone's like, that's fine. Nobody really cares, but legally, they have the right to terminate the contract. So that was a bit of a leap of faith that legally anybody could have turned their back and said, no, we're moving on.
And because you did an asset sale.
I did an asset sale.
And the reason people do that is because you don't want the debt that might be on the business, or why? Why is that?
The main reason I picked was the legal liability. It severs any, and I'm sure a lawyer out there will parse this apart, but it severs any liability from what the sellers may have done prior to my ownership. So a stock sale would be like if the legal entity continues breathing, but a new CEO comes in. In all actuality, from an asset sale, I am a new tax ID. So it's a fresh start, which has its blessings and its curses. For me, I think the blessings outweigh the curses. But yeah, there's a side, there's two sides to that coin.
What are the curses?
Right. This morning, I spent 40 minutes on the phone with Bank of America. Because I'm a new entity, my entity made over $1 million of revenue last year, but my credit limit is $8,000 on my credit card. So I max out my card like on a weekly basis, pay it off, and then just it's been fun.
So I'm wondering, like, what's the multiple? So the 1.9 million, can you share, like, what was the profit prior to the business? Like $200K?
I think
less?
I was trying to remember last night for this call. I think their SDE, seller's discretionary earning, was in the 400s, if I recall correctly. Real estate was in the 500s. I don't remember what the multiple was. And I'll also add, being that it was an on-market bid, it had multiple offers. So there were, I think, 6 people we were competing with. So we inflated our purchase price from what was originally listed because we wanted to show our intent and show that, we wanted to take this over.
And you became the operator.
Correct. Yeah. So the sellers, this goes against everything the books say. It has its blessings and its curses. The sellers are still a part of the business. It's an elongated transition, which every book I've read says like get them out in 2 weeks. But given that this is a seasonal business, the business shuts down when it gets cold. We'll just say end of December. It doesn't start up generally till April in Michigan. So I took over when there was nothing ongoing. So I wanted 2 things. One, I wanted to have a proper transition when the season was actually starting, which for us, because of the weather, we're starting early next week, hopefully. And then the second thing is we have machines. We do spray injection pothole repair, which is a niche business. And the machines are built in-house. So the sellers are contractually obligated to help me build 2 more machines. So they're building them. I'm documenting so that I will not be a fabricator. But in the future, if I want to build something, I can go to a third-party manufacturer and show them CAD drawings. That's what I'm working on as they're building via outsourcing that.
AutoCAD. Wow, you've really had to learn so much through this.
I won't jump ahead. I think you guys had asked in a prior conversation about what tools have I used something, and I'd say ChatGPT is amazing. I use
what do you use ChatGPT for?
I use ChatGPT for everything. I don't know. I came from corporate America.
Making designs of a spray,
not for that
machine
per se, but like trying to understand what the legal weight of. I knew nothing about CDL drivers, commercial driver's license. I knew nothing about like any of this. I came from corporate finance, and it's completely a fish out of water. So I'm just learning everything and anything, and ChatGPT is a wealth of knowledge.
It's amazing that you found it on bizbuysell.com. Is that right?
Correct. Yep.
And then, but you still feel good about using a broker.
I would say I would, even if for myself, everyone's different. I would not have been able to successfully close this deal, or in my opinion, for me, any deal without a broker for the first time while working in corporate America. So for me, it was a requirement.
Yeah, and that's pretty great that you were able to if they were doing $400K in sell, like what you're saying, discretionary earnings, which could be viewed as profit, ish, maybe, because you still need a person there, maybe like one instead of two.
Correct. Yeah.
So say 5 to 10 times profit purchase price. That's pretty good. And congrats. Yeah. What are you gonna say, Tyler?
How's the transition been? Because I, in my experience with these things, it's there's always what's in the head, and then there's the $20,000 real estate quagmire, and there's all these things that one doesn't foresee before it happens. And then there are also issues that you think are a big deal beforehand, and then they end up not being a big deal at all. Like what's the process been once you actually closed?
So first and foremost, I'd say the transition from the sellers, they have been fantastic. I feel like they have my best intentions, in everything that they do, and they've been setting me up for success. But yes, there was a quote from the Walker Drybel book of, you really find out what's going on when you put $2 million in someone's bank account. Yeah, you instantly realize how naive you were with certain things. You learn quickly, use ChatGPT, and you kind of start to put things in the right order, if you will. But and just an example of that, of things that you worry about that turn out to be nothing, is environmental. But my facility holds 1,000 some odd gallons of emulsion, and I'm probably not too far off from some residential places. And so I instantly had this panic of, is this even legal? Am I even allowed to do this? And of course, you need an occupancy permit from the city. The city came through, no issue whatsoever. So yeah, there's always something you freak out about, but it always works out, or you figure out a solution.
So the business is called Spray Patch
Road Repair.
Yeah, Spray Patch Road Repair. And it's got this thing, I'm looking at the website, it's like spraying things into potholes. Yeah. And I've seen this before, I guess. Now that I see the
it's all over. What the specific machines we have are I use the word proprietary, they're built in-house, but the concept, you'll find it all over.
And somebody, like a private person, could call you for like, hey, my driveway or road to my house has potholes. I could call you up.
Yes and no. I mean, in theory, you could call me. I probably wouldn't take it. We only really work for cities or large commercial clients. We don't do residents. It just doesn't make sense for us to drive that massive trailer and truck out there. We want to get as much material out as fast as possible in a efficient and high quality way.
And so you charge per like volume of
yeah, so most city contracts, and cities vary, city to city, can be done by the ton, can be done by linear foot. Commercial clients, will go out. Generally, we use tonnage as like our way to kind of understand what we're going to be requiring from material perspective, and then apply pricing.
Tonnage of the mixture.
Correct.
So you're kind of estimating how much it'll weigh.
Well, we know what the machine's loaded weigh. So like the machine's fully loaded, we know, it's X tons. And so then it's just a matter of how much do we believe? So the estimate comes from how much do we believe we're going to need to use.
So how much one of these machines can hold? Like a ton?
6 tons.
Whoa. One machine can hold 6 tons?
Yeah. Yep.
No way. Wait, how much does it cost for 6 tons?
That's a good question. I haven't even had to buy emulsion yet, but I'm buying stone on Friday. So let's have a call on Friday.
Because you're charging based on your cost plus whatever 40%.
Well, yeah, and there's a lot to it too, right? So just the 2 ingredients there are not the only thing. You've got labor, and you have to pay, for those trucks for that type of weight, you need CDLs. CDLs make more than the minimum wage. And I also like to pay people above minimum wage as it is. You get more talent with more money. So you've got labor, but yes, you've got emulsion, which is a petroleum-based product, so it's going to fluctuate, with the price of oil. And then obviously there's large barriers to entry. So we need large trucks. You probably see in their F650s, F750s. Those are not cheap. The machines themselves are not cheap. So gas. Oh yeah, diesel fuel, ton of diesel fuel.
Especially to insure the people and insure the trucks and.
Oh yeah.
All right, maybe I shouldn't ask it. Maybe I'll ask in the context of New York, not Michigan. But it feels like the price for this is really, really high. Like I just learned that the reason the congestion tax in New York City is controversial, and from what I can tell, is that people would rather put that money towards fixing the roads versus transit. And I just didn't realize fixing the roads costs so much money. So those potholes,
it's super. And fixing the potholes is we do a very high quality job. It will hold. We warranty our product. But from a city perspective, what me and you and our customers want from individuals, we want flat, perfect roads that are new. A pothole is going to buy a city or a commercial client years of life on that road, which then allows a commercial client to invest back into their business, or a city to reinvest elsewhere, education, police, fire. So it's, the pothole aspect is buying people time to fix the problem from a larger issue.
Like, how much do you think a pothole costs to fill? like you're
Depends
talking like
size.
$1,000, $10,000, $100,000. Like I don't know, like about about this big, like
As big as W.
like a regular pothole.
I mean,
I'm trying to figure out just like roughly.
That's I don't know. I can't give you an answer to that one. But there's, I mean, it also goes back to, so this is in the getting a little bit deeper in the pothole world. So there's cold patch. It's the cheap stuff you can buy from Home Depot. You can throw it in Michigan, New York with the freeze thaw weather. It's the stuff that gets
The darker shade.
Yeah, it's the stuff that gets filled in on a Friday, and by Monday it's all popped out and broken. Like, cities do that for legal liabilities because they have to fill the hole so cars and people don't trip. And then there's, you can do a hot mix, or you can do a spray injection, and it really just comes down to, what cities, what individuals want to pay, and what
So there's a cheap one, the cold mix. It sounds like maybe the city employees could do. Like, they have people.
Oh yeah, and they do that. We see them all the time driving right by my office, where you see someone, cigarette hanging out of their mouth, they're shoveling rocks into a hole, and it's going to bust right back out. Yeah, no, they do it, and it's done as a Band-Aid until they can do something better.
I love that they also have to be smoking.
They got to be smoking, of course.
But so, I guess what I'm wondering is, maybe in New York, I'm a little more skeptical. I'm wondering, with these large city budgets, do you feel like people just kind of get these contracts and just like milk them to 10 times cost, or is like the mob behind it just like strangleholding the city on paying a ludicrous amount for fixing roads? Or
not in Michigan, in New York.
Not in Michigan, in New York, other places. Or is it more like, hey man, these things with the oil, gas is so expensive, labor's so expensive now. It's just what it costs, and that's why it's so expensive.
I'm sure, like in life, any business, any industry, there's always individuals that can manipulate and come from a shady perspective. For this, if you think about what we do and how we do it, the ability to bring 6 tons, and that's just in one machine. We bring 2 machines at a time, and we bring enough stone to refill. So we can put down, almost 25 tons of material in a day's worth of work. To do that costs a lot of money up front to get established. Otherwise, you're going to have that guy, cigarette in hand, walking down the road, filling
in
one
his mouth or in his hand.
No.
Well, it wasn't his mouth. It's cigarettes.
But no, so I mean, I have not, in my 2 months with the business, I have not encountered any men in trench coats asking me to hand them envelopes of money to get a city contract, and nor would I want to be involved in that. I tell all my employees I want us to be above reproach in how we do everything. But I'm sure there's somebody out there who's got some connection, who's doing some sort of kickback. I'm not saying I've seen it, not saying I've heard about it, but that's just life. There's always evil actors.
So we bought this small business. So my last company was a marketing agency. We took over really this kind of failing marketing agency that was in New York City, actually. And they did a lot of business with the government, city government, New York City. And it was so different than the way that we ran our business. It really kind of turned into a flop, like the acquisition,
Yeah.
But one of the things that was challenging for us is that the culture of the employees were so different than the culture of the employees that I had in my business. Now yours is different. You're not combining 2 companies.
Yeah.
But that was hard. Like it was hard because maybe they didn't respect me, or they're like, who's this new guy coming in? And it was challenging. And so I'm just curious, like how, and you're only 2 months in, but when you think about that, right? Like you're a white collar guy coming from very corporate finance job into a very blue collar industry. Like how did you think about that? How did you want to make sure you managed it? Like what were you thinking in that?
Yeah, no, and I am trying to take that into consideration every day right now. So I called my crews in the winter. They're generally off. It's a seasonal job. And I called them back this week to start preparing and getting the maintenance ready so we can start working. And I think that's where like my life has kind of come full circle with my Marine Corps experience. So Marine Corps experience, green collar, blue collar, white collar. I worked on helicopters. I worked on very large H-53E helicopters. I did that for 5 years. And so while I'm not an engineer, I'm not super mechanically inclined, I did work on helicopters for 5 years. So I'm trying to make a point, like even I have foremen, and I try to make a point right now is I tell them I'm their dumb labor. I will do the worst job. Yesterday I was laying in hydraulic fluid and oil, turning bolts, came out with leaves in my hair. And I'm trying to make a point that, hey, my hands are cut up and oily right now. I'm definitely looking different to my wife on a daily basis, but I'm trying to lead by example. I don't my intention is to not always be the guy out in the field. If I really truly want to scale this business, I need to get an operator in place. But this first year is going to be truly just a learning experience for an entire year. I recognize that, and I'm trying to earn my stripes with the team and show them that I'm not just a guy from corporate finance.
So can you expand on the military experience and how maybe that has helped here? Because, people in the military come from all walks of life. Like, do you think that it's helped in a big way? You touched on it a little bit. I'm just curious.
Yeah. I mean, so I worked on very large helicopters. Like I said, for anybody who wants to Google them, there's H-53Es, massive, massive helicopters. They're called shitters because they literally shit hydraulic fluid nonstop. And so I have a ton of experience of just being hot in Iraq, cold in Afghanistan, working nonstop. I think I can empathize with the individuals who do these blue collar jobs, because at one point in time that was me. So I've seen kind of both sides of the workforce, if you will. So for me, I think it gives me a good perspective and allows me to kind of lean back on those times and bring them into my new business.
Do you think more military people should go into business and entrepreneurship and small business and like the path that you're in now?
Yeah, I mean, I think especially like I have a big heart, I'll say, for the enlisted side, because that's where I came from. So not many people will get this who don't have the military experience, but you have enlisted, and you have the majority of the military is made up by enlisted individuals. And there's oftentimes a perspective that you had no better opportunity after high school. That's not the case. There's been a lot of studies that point to that and prove that out. And when I was in corporate America, I made a point to go out and try to recruit individuals. I was at General Motors, and I was in the veteran employee resource group. I was part of the leadership there. And I do. I think it doesn't have to be small business, but I do believe, there's a lot of benefits for veterans out there, from home loans to GI Bill. And I would love to see all the veterans take advantage of those opportunities and just kind of run, full steam at it, whether it's corporate America, owning a business, or just doing something else.
I think there's a lot of opportunity there. So you mentioned, scaling and kind of growing the business. Was this something that the intention up front was to buy it? And is your wife in the business too? You mentioned her.
Yeah, we could go down a rabbit hole. She was supposed to be a part of the business. My son, unfortunately, after I quit my job in corporate America and prior to closing on the deal, my son was diagnosed with a very rare genetic condition. And so for insurance purposes, she'll be staying in corporate America.
I'm sorry to hear that.
Yeah.
So do you in the business and so when you think about scaling, is the intention to kind of grow the business? Like, would you like to buy other ones? Like, how do you think about it 5 years in the future?
So that's a fantastic question. So right now, my initial step is going back to what the sellers are contractually obligated to do. We're essentially doubling the business right now in terms of output capabilities. So going back to that website, you saw those machines. We have two, we're building two more. So we'll have four. In theory, linearly, that should equate to doubling the revenue and a little bit more than doubling the SDE, because, your structural costs should generally be fixed. So right now I'm trying to do that. I think that'll probably take into my second year is my aspiration to fully get those machines, utilized. From there, yes, my goal is to acquire another business. It's either acquire another business or open up a satellite location, maybe 50 miles away. But you lose economies of scale, obviously, when you're buying material, because you still have your destination charge. But yeah, which direction I go in terms of acquiring a business, I don't know. But I think it's got to be something that lends its hand to what my employees currently do. And I would love to get something that generates revenue in the winter.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So I'll ask you about advice, and then we'll go into the hack that we all answer. What advice would you have for someone else who's maybe in your shoes 5 years ago, who's in corporate life and they like it, and that's fine, that's good, but maybe they're thinking about this? Like, what advice would you have to someone in that position?
Educate yourself. Have funds available to either take the path of, hey, I'm going to take the plunge and quit my job and pursue this, or a similar path of finding a broker or finding someone to help you. But it's just be prepared, educate yourself, believe in yourself. And then ultimately the biggest thing is just have the courage to do it. Because that is the scariest part, is just like you're quitting, you're losing your identity as, some, hot shot in corporate America or wherever you may be. And you're kind of off on your own. So it's just, believe in yourself, educate yourself, and you have that to fall back on.
I love this. I love everything about it.
Oh man, awesome. So this will go on forever. As we wrap up here though, want to ask kind of what's one hack, life hack, or any sort of idea?
I think that's where I got ahead of myself. ChatGPT has become my best friend. I use ChatGPT. For instance, a great example is trucks. F750, F650. It's ballpark $100,000. I'll just tell ChatGPT, find me a red used F750, 100 miles from Metro Detroit. Then I'll just kind of refine the search. I haven't bought one yet from it, but it's amazing to just kind of educate yourself. You could use it to then execute on actually buying the piece of it. But I use it for literally every part of my business. I use it for employment law, hiring people, interviewing people, trying to understand, what can I legally do? What can I do? It is a game changer. I don't know how people did it before that and before Google. It's amazing.
On that note, I also started using this feature of Google called Notebook LM. And what I've used it for is we have this company that's in a niche in healthcare that has news every week that I want to keep up on. But also, I was thinking we could share our take with the world in a podcast form. And this tool is amazing. Like, you literally feed it videos, documents. Again, for what we're doing it for is like a week's worth of this stuff. And it makes a podcast that's like 15 minutes that covers those, which again helps me just kind of stay on top of the news. Cool. But also then you can ask it like, hey, add in a message about our sponsor, which is our company. So if somebody listens to it, they're like, oh, this podcast is sponsored by the company. And it sounds so natural. Nobody can tell it's not like a human. It sounds so good. And it's only 15 minutes. And I published it. And now it's like a live podcast that took like 5 minutes. And again, it's like, I listen to it. If no one else does, it's like, at least.
Cool. You really listen to it?
Yeah, because I don't have time to read all these freaking articles. And it's like, I mean, they might skip some stuff, but at least I get sort of the gist of what happened in that week in this particular industry in a 15-minute podcast form. Rather, I just do the better with that versus reading it.
All right, my hack is doing another negative hack. So when we moved,
another Budapest
there might be
hotel.
So we bought this mattress when we came out here.
Yeah, I remember you telling me about it.
Yeah, it's called Avocado.
I got the avocado.
Oh shit! Sorry about that. So it's
you don't like it?
No, I think we're going to return it. So it has a 1 year. Which, by the way, like just for anybody, maybe this would be the hack. So if you buy any of these mattresses online, they have a store here in Southern California. So we went and saw it in person. But I think a lot of people buy them online, and they have 1 year return policies. Like it's like a 1 year, and I'm certain, like we're coming up on a year. I'm at 11 months, and I'm certain that they're like, oh yeah, we're scot free.
When opening that thing took 2 people, it's like impossible.
I literally hired a guy.
So how are you going to return it?
So here's the best part. Okay. So I think that what they're banking on is that everybody has the exact same reaction that you have, which is like, oh my God, I can't, I think it weighs 350 pounds. Like
it's heavy.
So heavy. Which, by the way, what's in it? Like, why does it weigh so much? Yeah. So maybe like this is the actual hack. The hack is when I reached out to them and I Googled, like, how do I return a mattress? They just like send some dudes out to come pick it up. Oh. So yeah, I don't have to like throw it away because I think that they have some environmental thing.
Oh,
like,
here we go.
Yeah, $20,000 environmental.
$20,000 is for, yeah.
Exactly. So I think that what I learned, because we learned this in Manhattan too, you can't throw the mattresses away. You have to like wrap them and like there's a whole process. Like and I think out here in California, it's even worse. So they can't take the liability for that. Right. So instead, they take people out or they send people here. But I guess what they do is they actually, if it's a good enough condition, they like recycle it, upcycle it or something. And if it's a bad condition, like they wrap it all up and I guess throw it away. But either way, it's not my problem. So they send people out here to do it and they'll pick it up out of our bedroom. And I'm like, oh yeah, we're definitely doing that. So all they ask for is pictures. They're like, can you send us pictures of the mattress so we know whether it's good or bad? And I'm gonna be really offended if they say, hey, we actually have to trash this.
You get like full money back for
they charge $99. They charge like a $99 restocking fee or something.
It costs $3,000. You get that back.
Yeah, dude. Yeah.
Wow.
But now
so what are you gonna get? Where are you gonna sleep?
So that's what so I jumped right to, let's get rid of this damn thing. And then my wife's like, hey, we still need a mattress. Like we've got to sleep somewhere. So that's what I got to figure out.
Next hack. Tune in for the next episode.
Yeah. Ideally I line them up, right? Like have the guy bring in the new mattress and then the other guy like takes out the old.
Next week, Taylor will be sleeping in a tent bedroom.
Yeah. So that's my hack. I think that what I just told you is true for all these mattress companies. I think that like all the online mattress companies, I think they they all do this. They all like send some people out to take it. Of course, they don't tell you that because they don't want you to return it. But there's your hack.
Nearly broke my back trying to put this thing on our bed.
So heavy.
They probably have the same material used to fill up potholes.
It could be.
Well, Joel, thanks so much for coming on, man. Really great to have you.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate it. Appreciate the time.
Cheers.
Thank you for rocking with the homies. Taylor, Trusty, and Flavio. Seize the day, own it. Until next time, hold it down, hold it down. Hey.